This is what we want. How's it going, everybody? All right. We're looking at the One Big Beautiful Bill. We are on page 15, as you can see here. The next section we're going over is section 110108, recognizing Indian tribal governments for purposes of determining whether a child has special needs for purposes of the adoption credit. So under the current laws, state governments are able to determine whether a child has special needs for purposes of the adoption tax credit. A child is considered to be special needs if they are difficult to place in a home, i.e. are older, have a disability or health condition, or are part of a sibling group. When a child is deemed special needs by the state government, the adoptive family becomes eligible for the full adoption credit. Okay, this provision provides parity to Indian tribal governments, giving them the same ability as state governments to determine whether a child has special needs for the purposes of the adoption tax credit. I might not be understanding that correctly, but it seems like they are giving more rights to Indian tribal governments than they had previously. I'm going to double check. We're going to use ChatGPT just to make sure I understood that correctly. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT to explain like I'm stupid. So if a state government says a child has special needs, like they're older, blah, 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 the people who adopt that child can get the full adoption tax credit, even if they didn't spend that much on the adoption. But tribal governments, run by Native American tribes, don't have that same power. Only states do. This change lets tribal governments decide if a child has special needs, just like states can. That means families who adopt kids through a tribal system can also get the full adoption tax credit if the tribe says the child qualifies. This seems good. This seems that first of all, I got to just point out that my understanding was spot on of what it means, and I just used ChatGPT to confirm that. So they're basically saying that before you had to go through the state, even if you adopted through tribal means, which I'm not that familiar with. Should we look up tribal governments? What's that look like? Tribal governments in the United States are separate and distinct sovereign entities with the power to govern themselves. These governments, recognized by the U.S. federal government, operate independently of state and federal control within their defined territories, which are often referred to as reservations or tribal lands. They have their own laws, constitutions, and branches of government, including executive, legislative, and judicial bodies. Wow. So before, these bodies did not have the ability to do this. So before, only states could say that kids were special needs and give the adopter full tax credit. But now tribal governments can say that too. So this is another section of this bill that does not help the wealthy. It essentially only helps people. Oh, hi, Black Polo. You can see I've got the chat here. So if you want to say something in the chat, it's going to be in the video. Thanks for coming over from Instagram. I hope more people come over from Instagram to youtube.com/KellermanComedy. Okay, moving on. Section 110109, tax credit for contributions of individuals to scholarship granting organizations. Currently, there is no law regarding this. This provision creates a new tax credit for individuals beginning in calendar year 2026 for charitable contributions to tax-exempt organizations that provide scholarships to elementary and secondary schools. Such students who benefit from the scholarships must be members of a household with incomes not greater than 300% of the area median gross income and be eligible to enroll in a public elementary or secondary school. Under this provision, the tax credit program runs through calendar year 2029. Okay, so essentially, if my understanding is correct, just based on those words, they I lost my train of thought, clarifying that I'm just trying to understand everything as it comes. It seems as though from 2026 to 2029, with this new provision, which did not exist before, that charitable contributions to tax-exempt organizations that provide scholarships to... it's a scholarship program. Again, and it's only for people who aren't wealthy. We have yet to get... this is the third video I've done now. We have yet to get to something that benefited only the wealthy. And maybe they're waiting for the end. I'm going to just check with ChatGPT to make sure I understood that correctly, because there's always a chance that I'm an idiot and did not understand it correctly. I never rule that out as a possibility. I think that one of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that they understand or assuming that they know. I just always assume I don't understand. So what it means in plain talk. Starting in 2026, if you donate money to special nonprofits that give scholarships to kids in grade school, the government will give you a tax break for doing it. Okay, so I did misunderstand. This. This is not a tax credit for people who receive scholarships. It is a tax credit for people who donate to scholarships. So this is for the wealthy because they are more likely to donate to things of this nature, but it is incentivizing donating to scholarships, right? The kids getting the scholarships must come from families that don't make too much money, so the scholarships only benefit underprivileged kids. The kids also have to be allowed to go to public school. The program lasts until 2029. The super dumbed down version is give money to a group that helps less well-off kids to go to school, and the government says, great, you will owe less taxes. This is incentivizing people giving money to scholarships that will be used for underprivileged children. So, that's another good thing, objectively. Moving on. Additional elementary, secondary, and homeschool expenses treated as qualified higher education expenses for purposes of 529 accounts. Okay, let's look up what a 529 account is. A 529 account is a tax-advantaged savings plan designed to help families save for education expenses, including college and graduate school. These plans, authorized by Section 529 of the Internal Revenue Code, allow earnings to grow tax-free and withdrawals for qualified education expenses to be tax-free. Got it. Okay. Under current law, 529 savings plans are tax-advantaged accounts designed to fund educational expenses, with federal law allowing tax-free withdrawals for following qualified expenses: tuition, including up to $10,000 annually for K through 12 education, fees, books, supplies, equipment required for enrollment, room and board, computers, software, internet access, special needs services, the costs for registering, apprenticeship programs, etc. So this is regarding costs related to school, going to school. This provision allows did I move it off the page here? This provision allows tax-exempt distributions from 529 savings plans to be used for additional educational expenses in connection with enrollment or attendance on elementary, secondary, or homeschool, including curriculum and curricular materials, books or other instructional materials, online education materials, tutoring, fees for dual enrollment in an institution, and educational therapies for students with disabilities. This seems good too. This seems specifically like they're adding the number of things that qualify for a tax credit when it comes to expenses related to going to school. This seems really clear to me, but I'm just going to run it through ChatGPT to make sure I understood. Wouldn't be the first time. Would not be the first time I misunderstood. We all make mistakes, right? I try not to make the mistake of thinking I know something. It's really one of the biggest mistakes you can make. Updates on the Gaza situation. Unfortunately, there haven't been any updates. Gaza is still being bombarded by Israel. And, you know, Donald Trump talked a big game about ending that war within, he said on his first day in office. I think that was a little unrealistic even to begin with. I didn't really think that that was going to happen. Now we're over 100 days in, still going strong in Gaza. So, anyways, so a 529 account is like a special savings account for school stuff. You don't pay taxes on the money if you use it for approved education costs. And really what this does is just expand those education costs, right? So right now, you can use it for college stuff and some K through 12 stuff, like up to $10,000 per year for tuition and things like books, computers, and room and board. It says you can now use that money for even more school expenses. Not just college, but also elementary, middle, high school, or even homeschool. And they add a bunch of things to the list of things that you can include in that. So before you could use 529 money for school, but it was mostly for college stuff and some K through 12 tuition. But now you can use it for a lot more school stuff, even if your kid is in kindergarten or homeschooled. So once again, this seems, I mean, this would benefit the wealthy, obviously, but it just benefits everybody. Just benefits everybody who has school-related costs. That's not just the wealthy. It's not just the not wealthy. It's everybody. So this is another thing that seems good, objectively good. What are people saying? Andrew Price, college should be free, so I have no love for the people with scholarship funds receiving a tax deduction. Okay, but it does incentivize people to give to those organizations, even though that does sort of turn it into like a charity tax credit. Why not? It will ultimately benefit the children who receive the scholarship, right? If people aren't donating to those things, then those scholarships are smaller. So if wealthy people are incentivized to donate to those, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. It's not just like any tax cut. Hey, I'm glad you're catching me live, Black Sheep. It's not just like any tax cut for wealthy people is bad. If it incentivizes them to give their money to the poor, then that's good. That is how we achieve wealth equality. You're not going to get millionaires to just stop being millionaires. It's an unrealistic goal. But if they could just share a little bit of that money, if we could incentivize them to just share their wealth, then I think everybody would be in a better position. Thanks, Black Polo. So, moving on. Certain post-secondary credentialing expenses treated as qualified higher education expenses for purposes of 529 accounts. Okay, so this is going to be related to the last thing. Under current law, 529 savings plans or tax advantage accounts. Wait, did I just read this? This isn't the same thing I just read. This provision allows tax-exempt distribution of 529 savings plans to be used for additional qualified higher education expenses, including qualified post-secondary credentialing expenses in connection with recognized post-secondary credential programs and recognized post-secondary credentials. Now, all of these things are in quotations. All of these things are in quotations. So I'm going to ask what each of these things are. Okay, so qualified post-secondary credentialing expenses is the money you spend to get recognized education or training certificate after high school. Things like tuition, books. Okay, so paying to get welding certification. So these are like certifications that can also be written off if you want to get medical technician licenses, cybersecurity certificate. That makes sense. Okay, a recognized post-secondary credential program is a community college program, a boot camp or training program, a vocational school program, learning how to code, those sorts of things. And a recognized post-secondary credentials are certified nursing assistants, project management professionals, commercial driver's licenses if you want to be a truck driver or something, or even college degree can be included in that. Okay, so that just expands that 529 accounts, what those can pay for, even more. Again, does not particularly benefit the wealthy above anybody else. Okay, moving on. Reinstatement of partial deduction for charitable contributions of individuals who do not elect to itemize. So under the current law, only taxpayers who itemize are able to deduct their charitable contributions. This provision creates a temporary deduction for non-itemizing taxpayers up to $150 for single filers or $300 for married filing jointly. For charitable cash donations for taxpayers 2025 through 2028, the charitable contribution must be made to a qualified charity and cannot be made to donor-advised funds or supporting organizations. Okay, so this provision seems to, first of all, that last bit, must be made to a qualified charity and cannot be made to donor-advised funds or supporting organizations. That rules out the conflict of interest. So you can't donate to a fund that you're a part of and receive a tax credit for that. It must be to something else. And this widens that tax credit to, I would say this again benefits the less wealthy more than the more wealthy, because the wealthy are more likely to already have been itemizing their taxes, right? Whereas the less wealthy are less likely. If you're not a business owner or something, you're less likely to itemize your taxes. So this wasn't available if you used to not itemize. And now, even if you do not or itemize your taxes, you will be eligible for this tax credit. I'm going to check with ChatGPT just to make sure I'm understanding correctly. Thanks, Spiral Out. I give a care also, and I appreciate you giving a care. Or a shit, or a fuck, or whatever. Some people get mad at me when I do the nice news and say give a care. They want me to curse so badly. Anybody else in the chat give a care instead of profanity? I realize my show's called The Fucking News, and I'll never really be able to get away from the profanity, but, I leave that stuff out of the nice news. It's nice news. Oh, Nick gives a care. Spiral Out gives all the shits, fucks, and cares. All right, so if you give money to charity, you can only get a tax break if you are doing the long, detailed version of your taxes, which is itemizing. Most people don't itemize, so they get no tax help for giving to charity. The new rule is that you can get a small tax break for giving money to charity even if you don't itemize. So I understood it perfectly well. Regular people can get little tax breaks too. So obviously this doesn't benefit the wealthy more. They were already getting their deductions for itemizing and blah, blah, blah. Now, people who don't itemize, which are more likely to be less wealthy, can take advantage of this tax credit. So that's good. And again, it just incentivizes people to give to charity. So far, we're still good. Moving on. Section 110113, exclusion for certain employer payments for student loans under educational assistance programs made permanent and adjusted for inflation. So, under the current law, the first $5,250 of employer-provided educational assistance is excluded from an employee's gross income. Employer-provided education assistance includes the payment by an employer of an employee's educational expenses, including but not limited to tuition, fees, and similar payments, books, supplies, and equipment. This also includes an employee's qualified student loan payments in the case of payments made before January 1st, 2026. The new provision makes permanent the exclusion from gross income for qualified education loan payments under IRC Section 127C1B. This section also indexes for inflation the maximum exclusion from gross income for educational assistance programs under IRC Section 127A2. Now, If you're like me and you have no fucking clue what those sections of the IRC are, let's just take a look at what they are so we have some sort of foundational knowledge of what we're dealing with here. IRC Section 127C1B defines educational assistance within the context of employer-provided educational assistance programs. Specifically, it states that educational assistance includes payment by an employer of expenses incurred by or on behalf of an employee for the employee's education, which encompasses tuition, fees, similar payments related to education, books, supplies, or equipment. Section 127A2 is it refers to the maximum exclusion limit for employer-provided educational assistance benefits under a qualified educational assistance program. In simpler terms, Section 127 of the Internal Revenue Code allows employees to exclude from their gross income up to a certain amount of educational assistance provided by their employer. Section 127A2 specifically sets the limit on how much educational assistance can be excluded. Now, this one's a little confusing for me, so we are going to ask ChatGPT to help me understand, like I'm stupid, even though I'm not, but sometimes I feel like I am. There's so much, like, it's not even like legal jargon. It's just confusing language that they include sometimes. Probably to include some kind of loophole that you can't see until they use, right? But who knows? Right now, if your boss helps pay for your school, you don't have to pay taxes on the first $5,250 of that help. Also, if your boss helps you pay off your student loans, that part doesn't get taxed either, but only until the end of 2025. This was set to end. Hello, Saika Nakvi? I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And I'm glad you're here too, Black Polo. The new rule makes the student loan help tax-free forever, not just until 2025. Also, the $5,250 limit can go up a little each year to keep up with inflation. This, again, seems good. The super dumbed-down version is, if your boss helps pay for your school or loans, the government won't make you pay taxes on what he gives you. Just in case I'm missing something here, let's ask ChatGPT if this impacts the wealthy more than the not so wealthy. I wonder what it will say. Okay. It helps higher earners more, but not only them. Wealthy people are more likely to have a job at a company that offers this benefit. Okay, so debatable. Have student loans from expensive schools that qualify, actually owe enough in taxes to fully use the tax break, right? Because it's based on how much you receive, right? Lower income workers are less likely to work for a company that offers education help, have high student loan payments, or benefit as much since they owe less money in taxes. But I'm not sure I totally buy that. Lower income workers are less likely to have high student loan payments? That's got to be based on some statistic, right? I feel like I know plenty of people who are not high income earners who have high student loans. I mean, I guess what it's saying is, like, if you're a doctor, then obviously you went to school for 7 years or 10 years and have more student loans. So I guess that does make sense. Haiti 54 cannot be banned. What is happening? Who's taking over my... Can I block you? I'm removing this person. You can believe whatever you want, but don't spam the chat. That's the rule. Believe whatever you want, but don't spam the chat. We're all trying to learn here. Hopefully you're here to learn. Next section, 110114, extension of rules for treatment of certain disaster-related personal casualty losses. So under the current law, taxpayers may claim disaster-related personal casualty losses without having to itemize for disasters occurring through February 10th, 2025. This provision extends this tax treatment of disaster-related personal care casualty losses through the date of enactment. So I think we can all agree that this is good. Taxpayers may claim disaster-related personal casualty losses without having to itemize, and this simply extends that. So another section of this that only helps people who are already doing that. You know, it already helps people affected by disasters. So, Black Sheep, I do need a mod. I don't know how to make you a mod, but... Oh, wait, how'd they get back in? How do I... Alright, I'm moving on. Section 110115 just says MAGA accounts. Obviously, this law did not exist before this bill. So now, this provision creates money accounts for growth and advancement, which is a MAGA account. That's a good one. Okay, so MAGA used to be Make America Great Again, but in the context of the One Big Beautiful Bill, MAGA means money accounts for growth and advancement, as it states right there. It's a different acronym using MAGA. A new kind of savings account designed to incentivize education, entrepreneurship, and home ownership while promoting financial security. The accounts are administered by a bank or similar financial institution, and the overall program is overseen by the Department of Treasury. Starting January 1st, 2026, parents of any child under the age of 8 years old may open a MAGA account for their child. These accounts, allowable for children born before January 1st, 2024, so they can be 2 years old, are eligible to receive contributions from parents, relatives, and other taxable entities, as well as nonprofit and government entities facilitated by the Treasury Department to be eligible to open an account. The child must be a U.S. citizen, and at least one parent must provide their Social Security number. The Social Security number provided must be considered work eligible in order to open an account, so this will not be available to undocumented migrants. MAGA account funds must be invested in a diversified fund that tracks an established index of U.S. equities. So, essentially, it's a 401k for babies. Taxable entities may contribute up to $5,000 annually, like in an IRA. You can only invest $7,000 annually, or of after-tax dollars to a MAGA account. The $5,000 contribution limit is indexed for inflation, so it can go up as inflation goes up as the years go on. Contributions provided to MAGA accounts from tax-exempt entities, such as private foundations, are not subject to the $5,000 annual limit. Oh! These contributions from unrelated third parties must be provided to all children within a qualified group. No additional contributions of any kind shall be made to MAGA accounts after the beneficiary has attained age 18. So you cannot add to these accounts after the beneficiary turns 18. MAGA account holders may not take distributions until age 18. Account holders may access up to 50% of the funds for higher education, training programs, small business loans, or first-time purchases. At the age of 25, account holders may withdraw any amount up to the full balance of the account for these limited purposes. Still for these limited purposes. For higher education, training programs, small business loans, or first-time home purchases. At the age of 30, account holders have access to the full balance of the account for any purpose. So once you're 30, you can use it for whatever you want. But until you're 30, you have to use it on higher education or a house. This still seems good. Now, obviously, the wealthy will be able to take advantage of this. The wealthy are going to be able to put in $5,000 a year, and the less wealthy won't be able to put in $5,000 a year. But this doesn't, I wouldn't say that this drastically helps the wealthy more than other people. I would say, in fact, this helps people who aren't wealthy save for their child. We'll check my understanding just in case I'm wrong. Just in case. I'm going to take a moment just to say thanks for joining me on YouTube. If you're on one of the socials, make sure that you go over to youtube.com/KellermanComedy, comedy with a K, so that you can read the One Big Beautiful Bill along with me. For everybody who's on YouTube, thanks for joining. I hope that you like the video, subscribe, check out the Substack, do all the things. Okay, so it's a new type of savings account that parents can open for their young kids under 8 years old starting in 2026. It's called the MAGA account, right? We already went over that. The kid must be a U.S. citizen. At least one parent needs to give their social security number, and even kids born before 24 can take advantage as long as they're not 8. Who can put the money in? Parents, families, business, charities and governments can also put money in, and they can go over the $5,000 limit if they give to a whole group of kids. Okay, so they can only go over the $5,000 limit if they give to a whole group of kids, like all the kids in a school or a town or something like that. No one can add money to the kid to the account after the kid turns 18. So where does the money go? The money gets invested in the stock market, not random stocks, but a diversified fund, basically a mix of a lot of U.S. companies. Yeah, just like a 401k or an IRA. Right. Before 18, the kid can't touch it. At 18, he can use half of it for things like college, job training, starting a small business, buying a first home. At 25, they can use the whole amount, but still only for those purposes. And at 30, they can take the money out for anything. So it's just a savings account, really. If they use the money for approved stuff, they pay lower taxes. If they use it for something else, like a vacation, they pay regular income taxes, which could be higher. How will they determine that? How will they know what you use it for? So the government is letting parents open a special savings account for their little kids. Money grows by being invested. When the kid grows up, they can use it to go to school, start a business, or buy a house, or eventually just use it for anything. If they use it for the right stuff, they get a tax break, and if not, they pay more in taxes. I don't want it to show me an example, but I want to know, does this impact the wealthy more than the non-wealthy? Obviously it does, because they're going to be able to put more money into these accounts, etc. But let's just see what ChatGPT says. Okay. It's more likely to benefit the wealthy than the non-wealthy, and it's because the wealthy people have extra money to put $5,000 per year into the kid's account, etc. Already know how to invest or hire someone who does, can maximize tax advantages, and may even get donations from tax-exempt groups like charities in wealthy school districts. Non-wealthy people often can't afford, just like I said, often can't afford to put away $5,000 a year, are less likely to benefit from stock growth if they can't contribute much, and may not have access to financial help or tools. So, yes, rich families are more likely to use this and get the most out of it, but poor families might not be able to use it at all or use it only a little. But it does create an opportunity for less wealthy people to contribute, right? I don't see how that... I see how it helps the wealthy, but I don't see how it I see even how it disproportionately helps the wealthy. I don't see how it is not helpful for the non-wealthy. Because it is. It's still helpful to them. It's not like something that's totally out of reach. Okay. MAGA accounts, contribution pilot program. This didn't exist before. So now this provision builds off of the previous section and creates a newborn pilot program for MAGA accounts. For U.S. citizens born between January 1st, 2024 and December 31st, 2028, the federal government will contribute $1,000 per year into every eligible account. For newborns, MAGA accounts may be opened by parents or guardians. To be eligible to open an account and receive the $1,000 contributions, the child must be a U.S. citizen, and both parents must provide their Social Security numbers. Social Security numbers provided must be considered work eligible in order to claim credit. So again, this is going to be denied if either parent is a undocumented immigrant. If the Secretary of Treasury determines that an eligible individual does not have an account opened for them by the first tax year where the child is claimed as a qualifying child, the Secretary shall establish an account on the child's behalf, taking into account to the extent possible the parent's preferred custodian and investment fund. Parents will be provided the option to opt out of the account. Sounds like they're going to give people accounts even if they don't sign up for them. Maybe I'm not understanding that correctly, but let's see what AI has to say about it. The chat really died, guys. What happened? Is the YouTube chat working? Jeez, I banned one person and all of a sudden people stopped chatting. Black Polly, you still in here? Black Sheep? I see people watching, but all of a sudden nobody's chatting. I wonder if chats have been put on hold or something like that. I can't see if they have. Okay, if your baby is born between 2024 and 2028, the government will give them $1,000 in a special savings account called a MAGA account. The baby must be a U.S. citizen. Both parents have to give their social security numbers. The parent or guardian can open the account for the baby, and if you don't open the account, the government will open it for you after you file taxes and claim the baby, unless you say, no thanks, unless you opt out. It means to help every baby start with $1,000 saved for their future for things like college, job training, a business, or buying a home later on. Seems good. This seems like another good thing for everybody. And yes, the wealthy will get it too, and it'll be good for them also, but a free $1,000 from the government for your newborn baby. Doesn't matter if you are wealthy or what, it only depends on whether both parents are U.S. citizens. That seems okay. That seems okay to me. Okay, we're entering part 3 here, investing in health of American families and workers. Section 110201, treatment of healthy reimbursement arrangements integrated with individual market coverage. So under the current law, employees with a health reimbursement arrangement, or HRA, offered by the employer can use the tax-advantaged arrangements on certain medical expenses. Final regulations from 2019 expanded the use of HRAs, allowing employers to offer individual coverage HRAs, which, in addition to existing medical expenses, can also now be used to purchase qualified health insurance on the individual market without violating group health plan requirements. This provision codifies the final 2019 regulations permitting individual coverage HRAs and renames the policy as Custom Health Option and Individual Care Expenses or Choice. Now, I had a hard time understanding that as I read it, if I'm going to be honest. So I'm going to just ask AI to explain it to me like I'm stupid. Okay, so the current rule is some jobs give you something called an HRA, health reimbursement arrangement. It's basically a special account. Oh, message retracted. Okay. Oh, people are here. Okay. My chat's paused for some reason, but now here they are. They're all back. So some jobs give you something called an HRA. Basically a special account your boss can put money into, and you can use that money to pay for medical stuff without paying taxes on it. In 2019, the rules changed so that you could also use this money to buy your own health insurance, and it was totally allowed under the law. The new provision makes those 2019 rules permanent, so bosses can keep giving you money to buy your own health insurance if that works better for you than the employee-provided health insurance. It also gives the setup a new name, choice arrangements. Okay, super dumbed down is your boss gives you money for health stuff, now you can use it to buy your own health insurance, and this law says, yep, that rule sticks forever. So, good for everybody, once again, and more importantly, it's good for employees, not for the employers. I mean, I'm sure employers are incentivized in some way. They get tax credits for giving these benefits, but this does help employees and not the super wealthy, because the super wealthy are not employees. They are the employers. Section 110202, participants in choice arrangement eligible for purchase of exchange insurance under cafeteria plan. The current law states that generally, employers cannot reimburse employees for health plan premiums purchased through an exchange if any of the premium could be paid through salary reduction. This rule makes it impossible for employers to offer an individual coverage HRA while also allowing the same employees to use a cafeteria arrangement to pay for the balance of the plan's premium. This provision permits employees enrolled in a choice arrangement to use a salary reduction to pay for health plan premiums purchased through the exchange. I think that just means that they can have it like deducted directly from their salary. But I'm just gonna check my understanding here, as we love to do. Well, I love checking understanding. What is going on? Black Sheep, I'm gonna make you a moderator, since you've seen what's... Black Sheep, take care of anybody who's being an asshole, please. I don't know who you are, but I appreciate you. So if you're signed up for one of those new Choice Health accounts, your job offers the thing that lets you buy your own health insurance. Now you're allowed to use part of your paycheck before taxes are taken out to help pay for your health insurance premiums. So your job lets you buy your own health insurance. Now you can say, take some money out of my paycheck to help pay for it before taxes. That means you save money on taxes and your insurance gets paid. And again, I'm going to say that this benefits... Do you guys see what's going on here? What is the matter with people? God. Banish all of them, Black Sheep. Please. My goodness. Get the Nazis out. Anyways, this is good. This is a good thing. It's good. Again, it's good for employees. And not like a... It's not something for employers. Okay. Employer credit for choice arrangements. Here we go. So, these didn't exist before. Now, this provision creates a 2-year tax credit for small businesses with fewer than 50 employees offering coverage through choice arrangements for the first time. This is incentivizing small employers, small businesses, to offer this to its employees per month for the first year and $50 per employee per month in the second year. This seems so good to me. Well, I'm just going to check my understanding. I am on Twitch, but I do not go live on Twitch as often as I should. I mostly just play video games on Twitch. So, if a small business with fewer than 50 employees starts using the new Choice Health plan for the first time, the government will give the business a tax break for doing it in year one. And remember, these are businesses With fewer than 50 employees, Google cannot do this. Meta cannot do this. In year 1, the business gets $100 per employee per month. In year 2, they get $50 per employee per month. The super dumbed down version is, if a small business tries out the new Choice Health Plan, the government basically says, thanks, here's some money back on your taxes like a coupon for each worker. This incentivizes employers to offer this and ultimately only benefits the employees. I mean, the employer is benefited, but only because they are offering something they didn't before. So, this is good. This is great. Where are we here? Page 19. Okay. Moving on. Section 11204. Individuals entitled to Part A of Medicare by reason of age allowed to contribute to health savings accounts. So the current law is that individuals entitled to Medicare Part A... Hold on. Let's just look up real quick what Medicare Part A is. I don't use Medicare, so I don't know too much about it. What is Medicare Part A? Also known as hospital insurance, helps cover the cost of inpatient hospital care, skilled nursing facility care, hospice care, and some home health care. It's generally premium free for those who or their spouse paid Medicare taxes for at least 10 years while working. Okay, great. So individuals entitled to Medicare Part A are ineligible to contribute to a health savings account, such as an HSA, even if they are still enrolled in a private high-deductible health care plan. This provision allows working seniors who are eligible for Medicare Part A but enrolled in an HDHP to continue contributing to an HSA. The current guardrails that apply to individuals that are under 65 and are contributing to HSAs would continue to apply to this population, including a penalty on non-qualified medical expenses purchases. So it seems like it extends a good thing, but it is just a little, the wording of this is a little confusing. And thank you, Black Sheep, for taking care of these people. I really don't know who they are. I haven't been able to look at the comments as often as I like, so I hope they're not saying really hateful shit. That would really suck. I do not condone hate of any kind. All right, so let's have ChatGPT explain this like we're stupid. How are we feeling about this bill so far? I gotta be honest. We haven't gotten to anything bad or explicitly for the wealthy yet. Granted, I'm only on page 19 out of 50, but... So, this new rule, if you're old enough for Medicare Part A, usually 65 plus, you're not allowed to put money into a health savings account, even if you're still working and have a high deductible health plan. The new rule is that now if you're a working senior with an HDHP, you can keep putting money into an HSA, even if you have Medicare Part A. But the same rules still apply. You can only use the HSA money for medical stuff, and if you use it for non-medical stuff, you pay a penalty. So before, you're 65 with Medicare, no more HSA money for you. Now, you're 65, still working, and have your own health plan, go ahead, you can keep saving in your HSA. Wealthy people don't need to do this. Therefore, this does not benefit the wealthy. And I'll just double check my understanding. Does this benefit the wealthy more than the non-wealthy? Spiral out. I haven't seen anything that's been hidden yet. I mean, maybe it's just maybe I missed it. That's why we're doing this live. So if I miss something or you think I am missing something, we can look at it together. Seems like a lot of fluff so far. I mean, maybe it's all been good stuff. Wealthy or higher income seniors are more likely to still be working past the age of 65. Is that true? Is that true? I feel like they're more likely to retire. Have extra money they can put into health savings account, get more tax savings. Lower income seniors are less likely to be working at age 65. If they are working, they might not have access to a high deductible health plan, may not have enough income to afford putting money into an HSA, and get less value from the tax deductions because they're in a lower tax bracket. So if you've got extra money and a good job, this is great news. If you're barely getting by, this rule doesn't do much for you. Okay, so I guess this benefits... I struggle to say this benefits the wealthy, because if you're wealthy, then you're not still working at 65, right? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this does only benefit the wealthy. Maybe this one is only for people who have extra money and a good job. And I don't personally think that that only applies to the wealthy. You can not be wealthy, but have extra money and have a good job, right? So I guess that benefits the wealthy more because they'll be able to take advantage of it more, but it helps anybody who can take advantage of it. So it's not explicitly good for the wealthy. Moving on. Treatment of direct primary care service arrangements. So the current law, the Internal Revenue Service, has indicated it views certain direct primary care arrangements as a separate and additional form of health insurance coverage, therefore incompatible with HSAs, which can only be offered alongside an HDHP. This provision will allow individuals with HDHPs to also enroll in DPC arrangements and maintain their HSA, and allows HSA funds to be used to pay for DPC services. HSA distributions for DPC services cannot exceed $150 per month for individuals or $300 per month for family arrangements, adjusted annually for inflation. So again, this seems like it will benefit anybody who is using these funds this way. I'm just going to check the old understanding. What is going on? Social media's chat's even crazier. Thanks, Black Sheep, for keeping things regular around here. Think of our old age senators in Congress and others. That's true. That's true. But, you know, yeah, I mean, I guess you're right. I can't argue with that. plenty of old age senators. So right now, if you have a health savings account, HSA, you can only use it with a high deductible health plan. No other type of health plan allowed. The IRS says that direct primary care, a setup where you pay a doctor directly every month for basic care, counts like another health plan, so it messes up your ability to use an HSA. With the new rule, you can have both. You can keep your HSA and sign up for direct primary care. You can even use HSA money to help pay for the DPC doctor. You can only use up to $150 per month if you're single, $300 per month for the whole family. These limits can go up a little each year. So before, you had to pick one, HSA or pay your doctor directly, not both. And now you can do both. This one may benefit the wealthy more because you're more likely to be able to afford like private primary care, right? But really, it just opens up how you can use your healthcare benefits. So, you know, you just should be able to use your healthcare. You should be able to have more than one type of healthcare if you want. You are going to have to make a certain amount of money to be able to afford more than one healthcare, but you should just have the ability. So, yeah, this probably impacts the wealthy more than the non-wealthy, but it is it's not like it takes from the poor and gives to the rich or something like that. At least that's my understanding, and we're going to check that right now. How we doing, chat? Good for upper class rich only. But it doesn't, even if that's true, it doesn't negatively impact the non-wealthy, right? So wealthy people are more likely to have HSAs, just like I said. Benefit more for the tax savings because they're in higher tax brackets. Non-wealthy people are less likely to have an HSA or a high deductible health plan. They may not be able to afford an extra monthly fee for a DPC doctor. Right, they're not going to have they're not going to have a doctor separate from what their health coverage pays for. And they get less tax benefit or none at all if they're in low tax bracket or don't owe much money. So if you've got money and a job with benefits, this is awesome. And if you're struggling to afford regular care, it's not going to help you at all. So it doesn't help the non-wealthy, but in my opinion, this is something that just should be allowed anyway. You should be able to do both if you can afford both. I don't think only the wealthy can afford both, but obviously if you're impoverished, you definitely can't afford both. Okay. Moving on to section 110206, allowance of bronze and catastrophic plans in connection with health savings accounts. So under the current law, some bronze and all catastrophic health insurance plans have maximum out-of-pocket costs that exceed IRS-defined limits for HDHP's disqualifying HSA compatibility. This provision allows all bronze and catastrophic health insurance plans on the exchange to be eligible plans for the purpose of making HSA contributions. Sounds again like it's just sort of opening up eligibility to more people, and maybe the wealthy will benefit more, but look guys, the wealthy's gonna benefit more. No matter what, they can't pass something that's just gonna be like the wealthy doesn't benefit at all from this. I mean, some of these things are or have been specifically for the non-wealthy. And the things that benefit the wealthy more are still for everybody. They're still open to everybody if you can try to manage to afford it. Let's just have ChatGPT explain this like I'm stupid, just to make sure I'm not missing something here. So if you buy a bronze plan, which to be clear is like the lower level plan, right? It's not the silver, it's not the gold, it's not the platinum. It's the bronze plan or a catastrophic plan, which is just the lowest possible plan you can get from the government health insurance website. Some of those plans don't follow the IRS rules for high deductible health plans. Because of that, you are not allowed to put money into health savings accounts, even though those plans are cheap and have high deductibles. What does the new rule do? It says, okay, fine, now all bronze plans and catastrophic plans count. You can open an HSA and put money into it, even if you have one of these plans. So before, your cheap health plan is too cheap and weird, no HS for you. ChatGPT is funny sometimes. But now it's go ahead, use that plan, and still get an HSA. No more dumb rules stopping you. No more dumb rules stopping you sounds like Donald Trump is speaking to me through ChatGPT right now. Okay, I'm going to wrap things up here. Let's do one more page. This is page 20. And it starts with section 110207, on-site employee clinics. The current law does not allow individuals to contribute to an HSA if they utilize certain discounted health services at a health clinic at their worksite because the IRS views such services as a significant medical benefit, therefore incompatible with your health insurance. This provision allows individuals who utilize discounted healthcare services at a health clinic at their worksite to contribute to an HSA. That sounds to me like it benefits the underprivileged more, right? It sounds like if you're using like your work's discounted healthcare or on-site health clinic, you used to not be able to claim your insurance on that, and now you can. Which would specifically help people who need to use the discounted health clinic. So if you go to a cheaper free work health clinic, like when your job offers, you get care and the IRS says that's too much of a health benefit, so you're not allowed to have a health savings account. Under the new rule, it lets people use workplace clinics and still have a health savings account. So, like, yeah, maybe it will let wealthy people get some cheaper healthcare, but it's also going to help people who take advantage of cheap healthcare have a health savings account if they want. You don't have to not use the cheap healthcare place just because you wouldn't be able, it's not compatible. So, Again, so far, it's all been pretty good. Even the things that sort of disproportionately help the wealthy have not been bad for the not wealthy. And the non-wealthy are not excluded from those things. Certain amounts paid for physical activity, fitness, and exercise treated as amounts paid for medical care. So sports and fitness expenses such as fitness facility membership fees are not treated as HSA qualified medical expenses. This provision allows individuals to use their HSA for physical fitness memberships and instructional physical activity up to $500 per year for an individual and $1,000 per year for a family, up to 1/12 of such expenses allowed per month. Guys, you're going to be able to write off your gym membership. That's great. That is great because a gym membership is, in my opinion, preventative care. If you are exercising, that keeps, they say an apple a day keeps the doctor away, but a couple push-ups really does a wonders. I'm still going to have ChatGPT just explain this like I'm stupid, just to make sure I'm not missing something, because then I'd look really stupid. Sweet and expensive? What's expensive about it? Expensive like... the memberships are expensive. Yeah, gym memberships are ridiculous. So if you have an HSA, you can't use it to pay for a gym membership or exercise classes or sports, even though it's for your health. The new rule says you can use your HSA for fitness stuff like gym memberships, workout classes, sports lessons, but you can only spend up to $500 a year if it's just for you. Or up to $1,000 a year if it's for your whole family, and you can only spend a little each month, about half of the yearly amount. So, about 1/12 of the yearly amount. So it's not going to cover the full membership unless you get a great deal and your membership is like $50 a month. But that is good. So you couldn't use your HSA for the gym, and now you can. I think that is wonderful. Moving on to Section 110209, allow both spouses to make catch-up contributions to the same health savings account. So under the current law, if both spouses are HSA eligible and age 55 or older, they must open separate HSA accounts to make their respective catch-up contributions. This provision would allow both spouses to deposit their catch-up contributions into one account. So that one's pretty self-explanatory, I think, right? Obviously, they used to have separate accounts, and now spouses can contribute to one account. I don't know why you would. Let's ask ChatGPT. Why would we want that? Let's ask a different question. How does the above benefit lower income families? If both spouses are age 55 or older and eligible for an HSA and they want to make their extra $1,000 catch-up contributions, they each have to open separate HSA accounts, which means more paperwork and more account fees. The new rule now, both people can just use one HSA account for their catch-up contributions. So how does this help lower income families? It saves money. No need to pay fees for a second HSA account. It simplifies everything, easier to manage just one account instead of two separate ones, and it encourages saving. So families who might skip catch-up contributions because of the hassle may now actually do it. This is good for everyone. Good for everyone so far. How are we doing in the chat? I pay $120 monthly at InShape. Yeah, well, so some of that could be covered in your taxes next year. You get a tax deduction for that. Can I use part of my HSA to pay part of my rent since my apartment complex has a workout center gym? You can try. You can try. You might be pushing it a little bit, but you certainly could try. I've been getting ready for work this whole time. Been cooking now. Gotta run to work. I'll get you, William. Okay. Section 11210 FSA and HRA terminations or conversions to fund HSAs. So under the current law, individuals cannot transfer flexible spending arrangements or health reimbursement arrangements balances into an HSA. This section allows employees at the employer's discretion to convert FSA and HRA balances into an HSA contribution upon enrolling in an HDHP HSA. The conversion amount is capped at the annual FSA contributions limit. Okay, so again, this just benefits any employees. Only employees are benefited by this. And finally, finally for today, Section 110211, which is a special rule for certain medical expenses incurred before establishment of health savings account. Under the current law, HSA funds can only be used for the purchase of a qualified medical expense after the HSA is established. This provision will allow medical services incurred within 60 days before the establishment of an account to be eligible QMEs. So it just makes those retroactive. Just makes things read retroactive. I'm just going to double check my understanding. This is going to be the last one, guys, so thank you all for joining me. Make sure that you like and subscribe. And subscribe on other platforms. Because who knows when I'm going to get banned on all these things. One wrong mention of Israel and I could be out. You never know. It's crazy times right now. Psychotic Jew, really? Says that nothing too big and beautiful I've seen so far, but also nothing terrible either. It's true. Thanks, Liz, for subscribing on Substack also. Really means a lot. That's where I put in most of the work. If you open a health and savings account, you can only use it to pay for medical bills that happen after the account is set up. So if you go to the doctor before you open your HSA, too bad, you can't use the HSA money to pay for the visit. In the new rule, you can use your HSA money to pay for medical stuff that happened up to 60 days before you open the account. So if you find out you need an account, you can open it and then pay for the thing where you found out you needed it. Right? So before doctor visits last month, too bad, your HSA wasn't open yet. And now doctor visit last month, that's okay. You open your HSA soon after and you can use it. So, again, this doesn't really seem to disproportionately benefit the wealthy. And we're just gonna stop there for today. Thanks everybody for joining. I'm gonna keep doing these, so tell your friends. I can't wait until I have enough watch hours to be able to accept like super chats and stuff. Then we can really like people will, then I can read people's comments and shout people out and do all this fun stuff. So make sure you're subscribed, make sure you watch all my stuff, tell people about it, and thanks for giving a shit.